How's it going, everybody? I'm Jack Mayer. Welcome back to the Relentless Growth Podcast here with my good friend Chase Calhoun. We've got a great topic today. We're talking about leadership in the family, kind of what that looks like. And hopefully Chase is going to teach me what to do there because I'm sure I could use some improvement. But before that, we're going to start out like always with wins and updates. And so, Chase, what's a win and what's been going on in your world?
I think a win for me is I'm going to do a personal one. So I finally started to taper my Ironman training down. So it's exciting because the workouts are getting a little bit less than they had been at the peak there. But it's also a little bit scary because that race so I'm 20 days out. So it's coming real quick, but it's a win. At least the workouts are slowly starting to taper down. So I'm feeling a little bit better than I was a few weeks ago. And then updates for us. I think the biggest kind of new one is we're working on starting the process to go through entitlements for a small build to rent subdivision in a new city. And so we've got a pre-application meeting set with the city on Thursday. And so we'll be going up there, meeting with the city. So far, it seems they seem very receptive and open and wanting the development. So I'll be excited to see how the meeting goes. And then I think next steps will just be to really push forward and trying to get on that next planning commission meeting for the rezoning. How about for you?
Yeah, that's great. I'll combine my work and update into one. We've got very similar to you on the work front. We've got two projects going before two different city councils, one this week and one next week for a study session both. So I'm excited to get feedback and hopefully get positive feedback, obviously, to push those projects forward. We've been working on them for a while, so we're excited to kind of move those forward. And they're both single family, so hopefully it'll be our return to single family construction. So we're working on that. But to kind of kick the topic off, Chase, I know you've had a chance to attend a couple of events lately through GoBundance and another event that kind of talked about this family leadership and just talk about kind of your experience there and kind of what your takeaways were.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, this was a week and a half ago. We went to a FamBundance event, which is kind of like a GoBundance event, but geared specifically towards the family. And we spent a lot of time working on things like family values, family mission statement, and then doing exercises around setting kind of goals together as a family, and then some like cadences or rhythms that as a family we can work on to get towards those goals. And so it was interesting because the takeaway is kind of like, both of us run EOS in our businesses, right? But it's like a very similar framework that can be kind of taken from the business. We can dive into it a little bit more because I've done that a little bit, like also in the relationship with my wife. But we can take that kind of EOS or similar framework and then use it for our families. I think it's also interesting to like note that we did the FamBundance, which I would say like in a good way, but is like a little bit more on the like, family friendly, softer kind of like, positive side of things. But Nico and I, my teenage son, we went to, it was called the Squire Program, which was more of like a 1 day, like, event for a father and son to go through that was meant to be like kind of like a 1 day boot camp or like hell day, kind of what I would say is like really physically and mentally challenging. It's like any hard thing they can think of that, a father and son can do. It's like they were having us do that, like, really hard workouts and fighting and ice baths and all this obstacle courses and all this stuff. But it was interesting, the like hardcore drill instructor guy who's yelling at everybody and screaming and cussing and telling, everybody to do more push-ups or whatever. He did one presentation. It was just for the fathers, but his whole presentation was centered around doing family meetings, setting family values, setting goals as a family, and then what kind of cadences or rhythms would you guys do as a family to reach those? So it was like two very opposite like events, but we're both talking about how important and kind of life changing the same thing was. So I thought it was very interesting to get that perspective from both of those.
No, that's awesome, and it's something where I've started and stopped down this path a bunch of times, and so I'd love to hear kind of tactically how you got it rolling in your family and kind of what you've done and how you've tweaked it over time. So, like, what was your kind of first step to get this rolling?
So it's kind of started a while back, like when, especially being involved in GoBundance. Like I've heard people talk a million times about like, oh, are you should be doing like, regular meetings with either your wife or your family or whatever, and how important it is. And it's one of those things like I kind of just put off and put off and put off. And for me, when it really started was when we started implementing EOS in our business. I saw how kind of impactful that was for the business. And it just so happened that a good friend of mine was also our EOS implementer. I know that he had taken kind of some of the framework from EOS and then implemented it in his relationship with his wife and his marriage. And like he raved about, and I heard maybe one other person say the same thing, how much that helped their relationship with their wife. And I would say just prior to that, again, at a recommendation of somebody else, Brendan and I took some time where we like went on a trip, and the whole point of the trip is like, again, with the business, I'll spend time, or even with GoBundance, spend time and set goals for like my one sheet for the year. And so a couple of those goals were for my relationship with my wife, but never really spending that same kind of attention and time to do that with our marriage. And so we actually went on a trip earlier in the year where the whole, like, it was, rest and relaxation and stuff like that. But we were spending 1 or 2 hours a day, every day, just working on going through a booklet to help us do like a vision together. So it was like leading questions. And at the end of that, it was putting together a vision. So like, again, I have my own personal vision for my life, but doing a vision where it's like both of us coming up to it together. So I think that's where it started. And then again, deciding that we want to do some kind of regular meeting polls just to like stay on the same page with stuff. If we've got issues we're working through either personally or like individually or together, like some of that hard stuff that maybe it's just we get busy and it gets put off or it gets ignored or whatever. But like having that kind of regular meeting polls, just like you would in your business with EOS, to spend some time and work on some of that stuff. With my wife. So we literally it started out, and I would say that don't do this, and it didn't necessarily go so well, but I literally just took the US level 10 meeting and I tried to do that with my wife. And so she didn't love that because she said it felt very businessy. And then I was treating it like a business, and I could see where that came from. And so one thing we did do is we spent some time when we went through it. We kind of like renamed or reworked everything to make it feel less businessy and more relationship based, but it still kind of follows that same flow as an EOS level 10 meeting would.
Now that's honestly awesome. I've considered doing a lot of different things, but I'm so familiar with EOS, I hadn't considered running it exactly like that in my family. So I think that makes it a little more approachable. Obviously, with some tweaks, right? And it's a
Yeah.
little daunting. I don't want to know what my wife is going to put on the issues list for us to talk about each week. But you can address them if you don't know about them, and so I think it really is something that I'm inspired. I want to get started on for sure. I think, if you look at, the 1% better philosophy or whatever it is, over time, if you address, just one thing that would have gone unaddressed every week or every month, I mean, over 5 years or 10 years, your family, your relationship, your marriage is going to be in a totally different place. So I think it's a really great idea.
I think so. For me, part of what's been powerful is, again, after we spent some time and went through and kind of renamed everything, so it felt a little bit less businessy. But for me, like the way my brain works is having that regular cadence of where like I'm checking in and saying like, hey, these are the things. And like, for example, we have KPIs in our business, and it's like what you track is it's important, and it'll either move your business forward or not. And so doing the same thing in our marriage. Now we got rid of the KPI name or the scorecard name because that doesn't sound very nice. But I think we call it tracking what matters. And so we each came up with some things that's been important for us for our relationship. In order for me to feel, good in our relationship, these are things that like I would like on a regular basis and vice versa. And it was just interesting to me because it's like, some of the stuff that was important to my wife was like, it's just not that big of a deal. But if it's not top of mind for me, like I'm not gonna make it a point to do it every day, right? But again, it's just not that big of a deal. And so like if I know, and I'm looking at it, it's kind of like the scorecard in the business. Like it's like a subconscious thing. If I look at that scorecard in the business and I realize that we're lagging in one, and there's like anything I can do to push it into the, where it's at or above where we're supposed to be, it's like I'm going to try to do that. Or same thing with employees, like they're going to try to push it. And I catch myself doing it in the marriage. Like if there's something that's important to her and it's on that tracking what matters, and I know that there's something I can do to move that ball forward. And for us, like one very simple example is like one date night a week. Like it's not. You hear a lot of couples say like it's important to do a date night every week and make that a priority. But it's very easy when you got young kids and you're busy and you're trying to do a business for just that to get skipped. But again, it's like, it's almost a subconscious thing. When I know that's on that scorecard and I'm gonna have to report, we're going to go through it next week and it either got done or it didn't get done. It makes a lot more, it makes me want to prioritize that and make sure it gets done. And then again, just having that structure. So if there's stuff that is getting missed or it's getting missed a couple weeks in a row or something, like the IDS thing is a good place to drop it down. And or stuff like, maybe there's stuff that's, my wife's working on that's important to her. But it's like she's having a hard time or she needs help with it, or it gives a time for her to bring that problem that she's trying to solve and letting us work through it together and kind of reset and stuff like that. So I think it's very powerful to try to do it that way.
I love it. That's awesome. I'm inspired. I'm going to report back. I'm going to start doing it. And this is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode today, but what would be like your encouragement? What would be the first step that you would ask people to take?
So I think, man, I think it's kind of twofold. I think that doing the weekly relationship meetings is like a really good, simple place to start. I think doing the vision, for your relationship and doing the family values, and I think all that stuff is like well worth doing, and everybody should consider doing it at some point. But at least for me, like that stuff's like it's very heavy. Like there's a lot involved with that. But I think just doing the weekly meeting pulse, and so setting a time, we just do an hour where it's like you and your wife are going to sit down for 1 hour, have a meeting. We like that, the US kind of version of it. I think it's a good, I personally like it. I think it's a good flow to do, but however you guys are doing it, just where you can sit down, check in with each other, see if there's any problems you guys are working through, and then be able to move forward and solve those together. One change we're going to make after going to those kind of the GoBundance and that other, or the FamBundance and that other event, is a lot of people will recommend, or they want to do family meetings with the entire family, like once a week. For me, it like starts to become too much. And so I think what we're going to do is we're going to do our marriage, our relationship meeting every single week. And then once a month, we'll bring Nico in, we'll do the full family meeting. And so we'll run it the same style. We'll check in on those goals, if there's anything everybody's working through as a family. And so we'll probably do the, weekly meeting pulse for our relationship, and then once a month for the family. But some people would just say, kind of just do it as a family. And so I think either way works as long as you're doing something.
No, I think that's awesome. I'm learning a lot this episode, so it's helpful for me. But appreciate everybody tuning in. As always, if you got questions about this, I probably won't be answering them, but Chase is an expert. So let us know. Let us know if you have a topic you'd like us to hit on. But this has been a great quick episode, and I'm personally inspired by it. So I'm looking forward to taking some action. But good to talk with you, Chase, and we'll catch up everybody soon.
See you next time.